New York, Milwaukee, both have clinched postseason. New York, a postseason berth. Milwaukee clinches the division. Who would have thunk it, Brett, throughout different parts of the season? The New York Yankees get off to the great start, and then they go on the tank, and everybody's ready to write them off. Well, your brother's team gets last laugh at everybody who is doubting the New York Yankees, and then Milwaukee. Let's start there. Who would have thought Milwaukee was going to make the playoffs? Craig Counsell leaves. He goes to the Cubs because Milwaukee just wasn't that team that was going to get to the promised land. And who would have thunk it? The Milwaukee Brewers are the first team to lock up a division title in 2024.
And they're going to be scary, Rich, I think, going to the postseason because they're somebody that's been under the radar all year. Nobody's talking about the Milwaukee Brewers. Like you mentioned this offseason, Craig Counsell goes to the Cubs for the big, historic managerial deal. You lose Burns to the Baltimore Orioles, and Woodruff's on the shelf all year. And today you wake up and they're 88-64 and win that division to start the season. You think, are the Cubs going to have a surge, or the St. Louis Cardinals a year ago finish in last place? Certainly that couldn't happen again. So one of those two teams is going to win it. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh early on had some excitement around them, but in the end, Milwaukee was too much. So it's interesting, and I think they're going to be dangerous in the postseason. Going over to the Yankees, started off at a great pace, had some injuries throughout the year. As I'm seeing the theme in Major League Baseball these days is there are a lot of injuries, and the ones that can stay the most healthy throughout the course of a season has a big distinctive advantage, I think, that hasn't been so much in the past. But the Yankees today, you wake up 89-63. And they clinch a spot in the playoffs. Now, the ultimate is they got a 5-game lead on Baltimore, is to win that division. But little victories along the way, you got to start somewhere. So clinching a playoff berth is the first step. Long way to go. Think about the Yankees right now. Is they're healthy, and they're a talented offense. Chisholm's been a huge. I think he gave them more than they bargained for. I think he's been a better player than they thought they were getting from the Marlins. He's done a great job. Rizzo's back, got the game-winning hit last night. But the key, and always will be the key, is Judge and Soto at the top of that lineup having MVP years, and Stanton being in the middle of that lineup being a presence. And he has been that. The starting rotation is healthy. Little questions in the bullpen with Holmes lately, their closer for the past 3 or 4 years. He's had some tough sledding lately, but they got some guys back in that bullpen that are healthy too that can shore that up. So Yankees are healthy. That's the key going into the postseason. It's going to be interesting.
Well, let's stick to that thread of bullpens because, like you said, Aaron's had to manage a bullpen. Baltimore, they're having to manage a bullpen. I don't think this is the way they planned it on paper when they got together in Sarasota, but the Orioles just DFA'd Kimbrel. And they're going to go with Sir Anthony Rodriguez to go the rest of the way. He's been the closer for a while, but obviously the Orioles need to make sure they get their bullpen in order. Your brother's got to get his bullpen in order for the postseason.
Without a doubt. And the biggest loss to the Orioles and their biggest challenge is going to be they've had Bautista at the end of the line in Baltimore, and has been one of the dominant closers. He missed the entire season with Tommy John. So that's been a huge void in their team, not having Bautista. They brought in Kimbrel kind of as a Band-Aid. Hasn't worked out, and they DFA'd him. I'm looking at that Baltimore team. On paper, very talented, young. They got youth on their side. I just don't know if it's enough. I look at that rotation. You got Burns, Suarez, Kramer, Povich. The bullpen doesn't excite me. I don't know if it's going to be enough going forward in the postseason, but as we saw a year ago with Texas and Arizona, didn't exactly have the great bullpens, and both got to the World Series with Texas winning the World Series. So it's a different game in 2024. I think Bochy needs some credit for the brilliant job he did a year ago in managing not a power bullpen. You talk about the Yankees, they have the potential to be a power bullpen, and the Milwaukee Brewers, once again, I think they've been under the radar all year, but their bullpen is arguably the best bullpen in baseball. You can make a argument with the Cleveland Guardians.
Guardians, you owe me $1.
And recently with the trading deadline pluses that the San Diego Padres made, that San Diego Padres is a power bullpen as well. But bullpens play in 2024. Milwaukee definitely has it. potentially the Yankees have it. And without a doubt, my pick in the National League, the San Diego Padres, have an elite bullpen.
All right, go back to the clinching for just a moment. I know the Yankees, it was a shot to get into the playoffs. I know the Brewers was the division. I've been with bad teams, Brett. When you finally get to that postseason, it is amazing. I've been around clubs where you just expect to get there. It's still amazing. Take us inside the moment that last out is made, or that last out is made, whether you're at the plate or you score that winning run. But that moment that it's over, you're in the postseason, and you see the guys stick their hands up in the air and all dogpile each other. If it's the World Series, or go and hug each other and get the T-shirts. Give me that moment, what it's like to experience that.
Well, I think I've had a pretty some unique experiences with the years that I got to go to the postseason. My first one was in '95 with the Cincinnati Reds. '94 we were wire to wire. That was the strike year. '95 is my first time getting to go to the postseason. We clinched that division, and it was pretty awesome. Just having that celebration. Keep it in mind, this is the first step in a long road, but I remember that first one, and it was pretty special. The next time was when I was with the Atlanta Braves in 1999. We ended up going to the World Series, getting beat by the New York Yankees, but it was different in Atlanta. It was a different mentality. It was, this is what we do. We win the division every year. Let's not get too excited. This is just the first step. So I remember it was kind of a real download, low key celebration in Atlanta. Then the next time I went to the postseason was 2001 with the Mariners, and it was that crazy season where we won 116 games. So basically, we knew we were going to the postseason pretty much from the All-Star break on. So when it happened, there was so much surrounding that. It was 9/11 had happened. It was a foregone conclusion that we were going to the postseason. It's just how early were we going to clinch. So the second two postseasons I got to go to after that first one in Cincinnati were kind of really low key celebrations. Hey, this is the first step in a long step or in a long process of steps. So yeah, they weren't that eventful, but nevertheless, it kind of hits you when you're in there. You get to bring your family into the clubhouse, which normally you don't get to do, and celebrate with them a little bit. And it just kind of puts in perspective when we start off in spring training every year what the goal is. And that goal is getting to the postseason. So I have a lot of fun. The most fun I had was that trip to the World Series in 1999, because the first one you clinched, and it was no big deal. Then the second round you won, and it was like, wow, this is getting a little more exciting. Then we beat the Houston Astros to go to the World Series. And then we had a pretty good celebration in Atlanta, only to fall on a 4-0 an 0-4 sweep to the Yankees. But yeah, that's kind of a little insight to the progression of
Right.
the champagne celebrations as you win each level.
I'm going to mix metaphors here, but it's like college football. So when you get to the bowl season, there are some teams that are so hungry, they're just excited to play in Shreveport, Louisiana. There's others that like, yeah, we've been there before. It's
Right.
nice, but it's not going to change my world. And I think that's the same way in baseball. There's some teams, you're a Yankee, you expect to be there. You're a Brewer, you don't expect to be there. You're going to party like it's 1999.
No, I agree. And you're looking at teams like the Phillies. They've been there, done that a lot of years in a row now. And it's a foregone conclusion. They haven't clinched yet, but they're going to clinch. So it probably won't be a huge celebration. The Atlanta Braves have been a juggernaut in that division. This is the first time they're on the outside looking in. If they were to make it, I think you'd see a little bigger celebration than expected. New York Mets, they're hanging on by a thread. I think you're going to see a pretty good celebration. The Detroit Tigers, they're sitting a half game out. They were dead and buried a month ago. All of a sudden, they've been playing their butt off to get a half game out. So I think you see a Detroit, a Kansas City Royal. I haven't been to the postseason in a long time. When they do clinch, I think you're going to see bigger celebrations there. But the big guys, the LA Dodgers that have been there, done that year after year, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. They'll probably do it a little bit on the down low.
Did you ever have one where you had to watch TV to see if you got in?
No.
Okay.
All three. I got to go to three postseasons, and like I said, '94 was kind of foiled. We were start to finish in first place. We went wire to wire, but the World Series was canceled that year. So All my experiences of going to the postseason went through winning the division. It was never a wild card. It was never what the other team should do.
I remember, and again, I didn't play. I was just the broadcaster hanging
You
out
didn't
covering.
play?
No, I
Oh, I thought
tried.
you did.
I couldn't hit I couldn't hit a curveball. I couldn't throw. I couldn't run. I didn't have any of the
That's
tools.
my answer, isn't it, to everything? Too bad he couldn't hit the breaking pitch.
That's it. But so in San Francisco, I remember the first time I got to be in the locker room. Pretty amazing. Giants had gone from worst to first. Tampa Bay, nobody expected them to be there. But the Rays were in Detroit, and the magic number was 1, and we had some goofy like 9 a.m. start in Detroit. So slept walk through that. The magic number is still 1. And everybody's like, what are we going to do? We might win the division tonight watching on TV. So the bus goes back to the hotel, and all of a sudden people are like, can you take us back to the clubhouse? And we're like, okay, where we're going to watch the game. And all of a sudden, people just start thinking about, well, take the bus back to the clubhouse. So I stayed on the bus and we went back to the clubhouse. And all of a sudden people start filing in, like the 4th and 5th inning, 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, the entire team's there. The other team that I think was the Red Sox or Yankees needed to lose. And all of a sudden it was the most amazing party, but it was just weird being in that situation where you're just sitting there watching television, waiting for the magic number to get to 0. So all these playoff celebrations in their own are all unique and they're all wonderful. And it's the best time of the year. All right. I want to go back to the Yankee Mariner game last night where the Yankees won, clinched. They're going to the playoffs. A weird play happened, and I want to get your take on it. Bases loaded. Julio Rodriguez is at third. Randy Arozarena's at the plate, and Arozarena, the bat slips out of his hand, and it goes helicoptering down the line towards Julio Rodriguez, who scampers out of the way, but he scampers so far out of the base path, the Yankees realize, wait a minute, throw down to third, you can get him. Third base coach is screaming, where are you going? Where are you going? Arozarena, the bat's flying past his head, and all of a sudden, Yankees throw down to third, and it really takes all the wind out of the Mariners' sail in such an important ball game, just being 2.5 out. Fans were upset. Broadcasters couldn't believe what happened. I wanted to go to Bret Boone and ask you, tell me what happened right there. Take me inside of the player's head and what goes on.
Well, I looked at that and if it wouldn't have been on the heels of the night before, let me set it up and give it a little context. The night before, Robles is at third base with the bases loaded in a 3-0 count, and he tries to steal home. In the first inning, Heel, who was starting for the Yankees that day, there was a good chance he wasn't going to get out of that inning. Justin Turner's at the plate. It's a 3-0 count. He's probably going to walk him. He can't throw a strike. And my first thought right there is, Robles, you've got to have an idea, the situation of the game. The pressure's on that pitcher. He can't throw a strike. I understand if he's dealing, it's an 0-2 count, element of surprise, kind of a desperate move to steal home. That might excite people. And you can walk away going, it wasn't looking good, the guy we had at the plate or the situation. I tried to steal home and it didn't work out. I can live with that. But this guy can't find the strike zone. He's in trouble. And you just gave him a get out of jail free card. What are we thinking there? So it's coming on the heels of that play the night before. So I think that's what you're talking about, people being upset and angry about the Julio situation. I look at the Julio situation. It was a complete brain fart. It wasn't a case where he wasn't hustling. He was dogging it. Had nothing to do with that. He truly thought it's a dead ball. And then on his way back to third base, scrambling back, and when he got tagged out, he probably thought, what the hell was I just thinking? That can't happen in that situation. Yes, Julio's 23 years old. When does it get to a point where you can't use that I'm 23 years old anymore? All of us as players need to be accountable. He needs to be accountable for that. That can't happen. And I can give you a little story of when it happened to me. It was 2002. We were in a dogfight down to the wire. It was us and the Angels for that last playoff spot. We were behind the Angels a game or two. I think I was as hot as could be at the time. We're in Texas. I'm on second base with 1 out. There's a fly ball to left field. Everybody knows with 1 out, it doesn't matter if I'm on third or if I'm on second or with 2 outs. You're in scoring position. So when the ball goes up with 1 out, you always go halfway. Always, because it doesn't matter if I'm on third. Well, I tried to be a hero and I was going to tag, go second to third, and there was going to be 2 outs. That really didn't benefit me being on third with 2 outs. Doesn't matter. Yeah, you'd rather be closer to home, pass ball, or whatever. But I was going to be a hero and be on third because I knew the left fielder was going to catch it. Well, what ended up happening, left fielder deked me, pretended he was going to catch it. It went off the wall. Because I was tagging, I was unable to score, and we ended up losing the game. That sat with me for 4 or 5 days. I cannot believe I made that boneheaded of a play in that situation. And it never happened to me before at that stage of my career. And I just had lost the game, I felt, for my team. And it's one of those things where it was an absolute brain fog, brain fart, whatever you want to call it. So I look at that with Julio at third base, but with this Mariner team, the position they're in, the lack of postseasons they've been to, and on something coming the night before with the Robles, you've got to be hyper aware of the game, what's happening. And something like that can't happen.